listening to the House by the Video Store podcast.
There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk near.
We have such sights to show you.
I kick ass for the Lord!
Praise God!
Welcome to the House by Video Store podcast. I'm your host, William, and joining today will be Sean.
Hello.
And we have our returning special guest, Julie Strebel.
Hello.
And she was previously on our podcast. We discussed Split and Get Out, so the M. Night Shyamalan film and the Jordan Peele film, both produced by Blumhouse. But on this episode, we're discussing Alien Covenant, which had nothing to do with Blumhouse, apparent by the fact that it had a $97 million budget. But before we get to discussing Alien Covenant, we'll go through some recent news and things we've been watching. And recent news, there's going to be a new George Romero co-written Of the Dead film that's being in progress. And the idea for it, so it's going to be called Road of the Dead. And it was, Romero will not be directing it, which could be a positive or negative based on how you view his more recent films. But Matt Berman will be directing it. But the story is where zombie prisoners race cars in a modern-day coliseum for the entertainment of wealthy humans. So,
I mean, that kind of just sounds like an evolution of where they were going. You know what I mean? Like Bub Can Talk, and then firing guns in Land of the Dead. And I can't remember exactly what was going on in Survival. Did you see that?
No.
Did you see Survival of the Dead? Like, that was much better than Diary. It still wasn't stellar, but it just had that sheen of, like, independent, you know what I mean? Like, low budget.
Yeah.
It's like low budget, and they try to do some effects and stuff. And I think they even did some CGI. But, like, that was a better movie than Diary, and it was pretty cool. And it had, like, a couple cool moments. Like, I recommend Romero fans at least checking that out, even if you hated Diary, just to kind of watch all of his films, because that sounds like that's the last one he's going to direct that is going to be Of the Dead.
Yeah, so Julie, have you seen any of the, like, Diary of the Dead? It's not one I would recommend checking out.
We went to U of L to see that, didn't we?
Yes, they showed it at the Student Activity Center, wherever the film thing was called. They had like a special screening, and it came out around the same time as Cloverfield, and it was a found footage zombie film.
So I saw Cloverfield.
Directed by George Romero. So it's like, at the time, I was really psyched for it, because like that was when I was wanting to get into the filmmaking stuff, and digital cameras were starting to be good, and HD cameras and stuff that were somewhat affordable. So I was like, oh, so here's a movie being made more on the terms of what it would look like if I was able to make one. Then I watched it, and
people hadn't figured out found footage films.
Well,
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, Cloverfield did a really good job of making something different that wasn't just Blair Witch.
Yeah.
And Romero, I don't think he didn't figure out how to sell it as being feeling found footage. Like, they did some cool stuff, like one shot takes on some things. But then on top of that, it was just like the characters were okay, but the story wasn't good. Like, all those other elements, like common elements of film, just wasn't good
MySpace played a pretty prominent role in the movie, so that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
So it's very dated.
And like, there's one scene where they have like a Nokia camera phone or something, and it's like a first-person view is like a or like an RV is running over stuff, and it just looked terrible. And I was so disappointed by it, because I was like, it was George Romero going back to the Of the Dead films on the independent scale. And it was just blah. So, but this at least sounds like it will not be guy who's up there in age talking about stuff he's probably not all that up on. Because Diary of the Dead
why didn't he just get George Miller to direct this?
Make it like Mad Max.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate team up right there.
Yeah.
I recommend checking out Survival. I don't think that's free anywhere though. I had to rent it when it came out. And I've never seen that on like Netflix or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if it's like 99 cents somewhere, I would definitely rent it. But
yeah, maybe I'll check that out at some point.
Yeah, just to kind of see his last film, because it was a step up from Diary.
Yeah.
But it still was just kind of cheap looking, like.
Yeah.
And it's just a budgetary level. Like I think he did a pretty decent job on that. I feel like he bounced back a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still nowhere near, like, even Land. Like, I love Land. I know a lot of people didn't like it that much. Didn't like it as much as the first three.
Yeah.
But that's only because all those, like, always bounce back on my favorite one. Like, I'm always hard to decide which one I like best.
Yep. So there's that news. Then there's also the news that Tom Hardy will be playing Venom in an upcoming Venom film for Sony. And at least they're not bringing back Topher Grace, if everybody remembers that.
Or Topher.
It's still, there aren't a lot of details on it. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. Like, to do an actual Venom movie, I think it need to be R.
It is R.
Oh, it is?
It's R, yeah. And then the director is Zombieland.
Oh, yeah, Ruben Fleischer.
Nice.
Which
Yeah,
I
remember
actually
that
watched a
piece-
little bit of that this weekend.
Zombieland.
Yeah, it was on TV.
Like, that was a fun movie.
Yeah.
And
Some of the humor is a little dated, I think. I don't know. Like, some of it just seems a little
'Cause
more
the-
hokey.
Was that the one with Emma Stone and Bill Murray?
Yes, yeah.
It's Emma Stone, right?
it was, it was the one with Emma Stone.
I have
I
seen
enjoyed
that
it
then.
quite a bit when I watched it, and I still like it.
Yeah,
but-
it was entertaining.
Yeah, but it's not one I go back and revisit a lot.
Yeah. Well, movies like that though can get by with not being perfect just because they don't take themselves seriously.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah. Which they're making a sequel to that too.
Oh, fine.
But I don't.
Well, and the writers of Zombieland wrote Deadpool.
yeah.
So they've branched out and done a bunch of other stuff. But so with the Venom movie, I didn't realize it would be rated R. But it'd be interesting to see what they do, because like if he's like killing dudes, but I don't know how you make a Venom movie without Spider-Man. That's kind of pointless to me. That's
Well, they
like,
said they're not for sure if he's going to be in it or not.
But if they haven't, I don't think Marvel would let them have an R-rated Venom character in the
Right.
Marvel Cinematic Universe with Spider-Man, who's like 16.
Well, this is Sony's Marvel universe. The Venom is.
But like
And
Spider-Man, is
Spider.
part
It's
of
like
the
it's like that
Marvel-
Venn diagram.
Yeah.
And they
yeah.
said like Spider-Man can go out. They're making their own cinematic universe.
Oh, okay.
Sony is, and they call it like the Marvel whatever, but really it's like the Spider-Man cinematic universe. They said
Yeah.
because they're just going to do a lot of the
which
Spider-Man
they tried to do a
characters.
few years ago.
Yeah, so I'm sure that even if Spider-Man's not in this one, they're gonna cross paths. You know.
Yeah. But Tom Hardy is not a bad choice. The only thing I've seen some people complaining about is the fact that he's not exactly that tall. And Eddie Brock, in the comics at least, from like the 80s, was like, or the early 90s or whatever, was like kind of a big, strapping, like meathead dude with a mullet for part of his run. So
Yeah, but then again, like, just don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have to take that approach. You know
they
what I
can
mean?
just shoot him like he's Tom Cruise, make
yeah,
him look
just
like
make
he's 6'2".
small,
Right.
some small doors.
Right.
But yeah, I don't even think like I know people already like as soon as they cast something, they start jumping on like, well, this is it's not like this. It's like, well, how about they just don't take that approach at all, and they just get a really good actor, a good director, and people really care about just seeing the Venom outfit. I think a lot. You know what I mean?
And
Like
not-
the mass audience.
And not the
Right.
terrible looking one from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, like just yeah. I'm not super excited. I love Tom Hardy, and like I said, I like Zombieland, but I won't get excited until I see
Well,
a trailer probably.
Unless he just, Tom Hardy, like he just needs to grunt through the entire film and
Yeah.
have somewhat unintelligible dialogue like
Yeah.
in Mad Max.
Yeah,
But yeah, so there's that bit of news.
I thought you were talking about Bane also.
Oh. I was born into the symbiote of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be excited until but I'm also not like big on Venom.
Was he Bane?
Yes,
Yeah,
Tom Hardy was Bane.
he's Bane.
He's huge then. Like, or he looks huge on film.
So I mean, he's muscular and huge.
He's not
but
as
he's
big
not
as Tom
tall.
Cruise.
Yeah, but I mean, then yeah, he's big enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, a lot of
Like,
people were
yeah.
saying.
I feel like people are already like nitpicking. It's like, okay, look, he's
Well,
not
people,
8 feet tall.
when I
people
saw it-
Yeah.
nitpicked about Heath Ledger as the Joker, and
Yeah.
look how amazing he was.
Well, when I saw-
so like,
Yeah, like if Tom Hardy's a good actor too. So when I saw that
Yeah.
news, I was like, oh, okay, they've
But-
actually got somebody that makes
Oh,
sense. in the
William,
role.
I want somebody tall, not a good actor.
right?
Well, it's like with the X-Men films, everybody bitched about initially Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
being like over 6 foot and Wolverine's supposed to be really short. And then like that turned out where he's kind of like, to a lot of people, that character. And
Yeah.
with Tom Hardy, like as long as he's good in the role, it won't matter.
Do you think like once we get into genetic engineering, you know, like you can like
They're gonna
pick,
genetically
you can like
engineer
pick your
actors.
babies, like what
Yeah.
sex they are. Are they gonna just like, okay, we've got Wolverine, let's just build a new Wolverine, and they genetically make him exactly like the comics
No, I
like
think it'll all
stats?
be CGI by then.
It's like, okay, so we're doing Jack Reacher 3. Can we do a clone of Tom Cruise? It's just like 5 inches taller.
Well, that's how you do the stunt doubles. You just make all the clones
yeah,
and
there
throw
you
them
go.
off a roof.
There you go.
Like, yeah. So there's that. Other brief news. I know I saw an interview or something with Danny O'Brien recently where he talked about for the Halloween movies that in their version, Michael Myers won't be immortal and invincible, which I guess is good news because
Then he can actually die.
theoretically,
I think the point he was making too, because he said it's a lot more scary to have like this, you know, I don't know what he called it, but let's just say he said like, you know, a magical creature that can't die. A thing that it's a lot more scary is a guy hanging out by your garbage cans behind your house at night.
Yes.
So they want to go for that vibe more than like a
Yes.
supernatural, like indestructible. So it sounds like they're trying to kind of, I guess, probably ground the scares and maybe bring more reality to it, possibly.
Well, it's true though that it is more horrifying when it's like, oh, that could actually happen.
Yeah. Anybody in my neighborhood could be wearing a Michael Myers mask and do the same thing.
Right.
Not just,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
Michael Myers is in Haddonfield. I don't have to worry about that.
Because people be cray.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
so that was encouraging news. And everything I've heard about the project so far is stuff that I like the sound of.
I've already forgotten. Did they have a release date?
It's going to be in October of 2018. I forgot the exact date,
Yeah.
but it's coming out next year.
That's good. I'm glad they've got a nice long development. You know, relatively long in the modern
Well,
era.
and two, I think they realize releasing it in October is the way to go.
Yeah.
And it's better to release it in October of next year than to rush it out in like April or because I think we talked about Grindhouse releasing in April. I think really hurt that movie. Releasing Halloween in October is the way to go. Mm-hmm. So there was that. I know there's been some talk about The Craft being remade. There's more updates on that.
And I think, so they said they've got a new person rewriting the script. I think what I heard it was almost like a sequel / remake. I think I heard the original film's still going to exist. So I don't know if they're going to bring in some of the characters being older or whatever,
Yeah.
but I like that film. I haven't watched it in a very long time.
I just
but
feel like
I'd like to revisit it.
I know. So Julie, you haven't seen it, right?
No, I need to because I've obviously heard about it forever. And
I mean, it's very much a 90s film,
Yeah,
though. It's not
and
like,
it's-
oh, this is a classic,
Well,
like
yeah.
Halloween or
But
something.
it is iconic,
But
though,
yeah,
for
but
a
it's
lot
like,
of
it was a
people.
fun movie at the
Yeah.
time, like a totally fine summer release
It's
or
got,
whenever it came out.
So yeah, it had Neve Campbell with like burns on her body.
Yeah, I remember that.
Then it had the girl that was I forgot the actress's name. She was Bobby Boucher's girlfriend in The Waterboy, and I forgot who else was in it. I'm sure there's people that were in it from the 90s.
Yeah, oh man, that black chick that was in it.
We need to go back.
She's yeah, I liked her a lot.
We'll have to go back and do a podcast where you like a bunch of stuff from the late 90s, like The Craft, The Faculty. I Know
Didn't
What
we
You
do
Did
The
Last
Faculty?
Summer. I don't think we did.
Or maybe I just watched it recently.
I know you've mentioned it.
Maybe I just showed it to Nicole because I was like, this is a good movie. Like, this is a really good Robert Rodriguez movie.
Yeah. So there's stuff. So, and then so there's a new Jurassic Park next year. This year, Twin Peaks is coming back. We're recording this on May 21st, so it comes back today. So that's coming back. A new Alien film just came out. There's a new Star Wars film this year. Like all this stuff from the 90s and 80s and all that stuff is coming back now. So
I mean, this weekend too, you got Ridley Scott in his 79 doing Alien, and then
Yeah.
David Lynch in his 70s as well doing the entire series of Twin Peaks.
speaking of though, Dark Crystal.
yes, there's.
I'm excited
There's
about.
going to be a Netflix prequel series for The Dark Crystal, which is the 80s like Jim Henson puppet kind of movie. Because a lot of people confuse, I think, probably like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth because they're similar.
Because they're puppets and weird.
Yes, but Labyrinth is the one with Bowie. Dark Crystal is the one without Bowie.
And also Dark Crystal is
That's how they
purely
remade it because he passed away, so they had to go with Dark Crystal.
right. But yeah, Dark Crystal is purely puppet work. There's no real people in it. It's all Jim Henson creation stuff.
And I want to see because the puppets and Muppets and all that stuff, or Muppets or specifically the Muppets, but the puppetry stuff, that can be unsettling and creepy as hell.
Yeah, you've seen Dark Crystal.
Yeah,
right?
I need to rewatch. It's been a while,
It's-
but I've seen
Yeah,
it.
it's because I was a child last time I saw it. Honestly, I think I may have it on DVD because it was like a $5 Target thing, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" And I bought it and haven't watched it yet.
It's what was it? Where the Wild Things Are. I know that
yeah.
during when they were making that, so you had the physical puppets or the puppetry characters with actors in the location, and they CGI'd the faces on later. And that movie, they went through different iterations, and different things they did just scared the hell out of kids at test screenings until they eventually landed
Yeah.
on
I
the.
love that movie.
Well, because I loved it. I specifically loved the acapella Arcade Fire. I know it wasn't acapella, but the Arcade Fire
Karen
song.
O's,
Yeah.
all her stuff too.
But anyway, which was not in the soundtrack, and I was real sad about that. I can't acquire that song anywhere. I don't think it's in the soundtrack. The point is, I love the movie, but yeah, I remember watching it in theaters, and I was like, "Are children going to watch this?"
Yeah.
I was like, as if I was a child. Oh my god!
Yeah, I
Kinda
think there were
scary.
some kids in my screening, and honestly, I think
It was
one
intense.
I think one got a little upset from what I
Yeah,
remember.
it was just
There was,
very.
there was a bunch of kids in ours actually.
Because it was, I think it was, because it's cool. If they just looked real and were uber friendly the whole time, whole different. I just knocked my mic stand almost over. A whole different story. But the fact is, they weren't always nice.
Well, they threatened to eat.
Yeah,
the Kid Max.
they threatened to rip his arm off, and they ripped the one guy's arm off, and I was like, oh my god, like run away, child. Like I was scared for him. So.
Or run into the fray if you want to see some non PG-13 or PG action. So. Yeah, so the Dark Crystal series, I know it's like it's a tinge of nostalgia because a lot of people remember that and like that from when they saw it as a kid, and the puppet stuff is cool. So I'm excited to see what they do with that.
Netflix is making that possible, like a lot of things too.
I love Netflix.
It's like, did you see the stuff from Cannes? How people were booing the Netflix logo at the Okja premiere?
Really?
Bong Joon-ho, yeah. Because there was somebody on the panel, like people are saying Netflix is killing cinema.
Well, yeah, they're saying like the Cannes Film Festival changed the rules so that next year you have to have like films in a certain number of like French theaters for a certain period of time or something like that before you can be screened at Cannes. If you go straight from like screening to Netflix availability, then they won't show it, which is just, to me, it's people just trying to not adapt to the way the world's working and trying to hold, because like,
well, and also different markets. Like, there's a lot of people who invest in art house cinema in, in European countries.
well, and they get grants from the government.
Yes,
stuff.
they can survive like that. But the whole world market, like Netflix is a way for people like Bong Joon-ho to make films like this, for them to make Dark Crystal, to bring back, like these niche shows, even if it's something like Full House, I mean? Like,
well, like Arrested Development's come back for season 5.
Like they're bringing back all these things, and it's like they're able to do it because of their business model.
Because they know that they have subscribers. Subscribers want to see all this different stuff. They watch it, and then as long as people subscribe, they can keep making all these different original things.
Yeah.
Versus they don't run things through. I mean, I don't think they run things through like the different committees and like marketing firms and do test screenings. I mean, I'm sure they do test screenings for some of the films, but they don't. It's not beholden to a marketing or PR
that's
department.
Why
Bong Joon-ho.
He said like he had such a terrible experience with Snowpiercer. The Weinsteins, they kept wanting him to make cuts and all that, and they had the film done for like a year and a half or 2 years, and he kept saying no, and finally they released it and dumped it out like in a time when they knew it wasn't going to do well.
Yeah.
So that's why he went to Netflix, because he knew they were a lot more accommodating to people like that have a vision and then want to, create something original and not just, bend it to be very specific to a certain market or what the distributors think is going to sell it. And that movie is supposed to be awesome. Like, you know.
Yep, so I think that was all the news to talk about. So we can briefly go through just things we've been watching before I get into Alien Covenant. With me, I haven't really had a chance to watch much lately. I caught up on TV shows like Fargo and Better Call Saul.
And Handmaid's Tale.
And Silicon Valley and Handmaid's Tale, which, if you're not aware of Handmaid's Tale, it's essentially just a dystopian future where religious extremists are in control because it became more and more difficult for people to have children. And they create some messed up religious order around the way women are treated and have children, stuff like that. And it's one of those things where it doesn't seem all that unrealistic is what makes it more scary.
No, it's based on a book by Margaret Thatcher. And oddly enough, and I never would have known this unless I had specifically been informed before. I guess NPR interviewed her a month or so before the show premiered on Hulu. But the book was written, or it was published in 1986. So 31 years ago, this book came out, and I never would have known it was not written last year or like modern day, just because of all the stuff going on politically, people going back and forth on issues. And anyway, but I've said, and anyone who disagrees with me, I would be more than happy to hear their viewpoint on it. But I've said that Handmaid's Tale is to women what Get Out is to black people, basically, in terms of in terms of,
perspective.
Well, and a lot of the issues, the gender issues that you see in Handmaid's Tale that are based on current reality, it's like, oh, yep, that's legit as a woman watching this. Whereas, I spoke to a friend who's a black male who's my age after he saw Get Out, and he was like, yep, that's a real thing right now that I've experienced. And of course, obviously, as Get Out progressed into something that was not realistic as far as we know. But that's the thing though, but it's the reason why it's so psychologically a thriller and interesting is because it's like, oh, that's that's not impossible. Like, oh man, this is unsettling because this feels like it could happen.
Yes.
Or anyway, or I can relate to it. And so that's what I said about it.
And
It's really good, though.
It's on Hulu, so you can check it out there. And
How many episodes is it?
I don't remember.
Oh, it's so far.
I'm always like, how many episodes?
Because so it's on Wednesdays. I think
Oh,
we've
so they
seen.
don't dump it. They didn't.
No.
Dump
Yeah, Hulu, what they did was they released the first 3, and then they released them weekly after that. So
Yeah, so I think we're 5, 6 episodes. No,
I think it's episode 6, maybe. And
Okay.
2, they renewed it for season 2.
But I think it's well written. The book is a quick read if anyone's interested. So the book's worthwhile reading, but it's not necessary at all. The show is very true to the book, and when they do elaborate on things to obviously give it filler, because it's not a super long book. I feel like it's relevant. It's not just them going off in the deep end. On
So they
a whole
said
other.
there are 10 episodes in season 1.
Okay.
And there'll be a season 2. So Handmaid's Tale's on Hulu, so you can check that out. Like I said, Twin Peaks comes back on Showtime, so we'll be watching that and talking about that. So I'm excited
we're
about
gonna do a
that.
video blog on that tomorrow or something.
I believe so.
Which, if you're listening to this, it will have been yesterday. Because we're recording this on Sunday, so maybe Monday we'll try to, if we can get together.
See, like right now, Julie's wearing a Back to the Future shirt. So in these podcast terms, we're talking about time jumping of stuff being in the future, which is really in the past to you. But yeah, so I didn't really get a chance to watch much else this week aside from just TV stuff. So aside from Alien Covenant, I did not rewatch the Alien films, which I thought about doing, but I just ran out of time. But so
Warcraft was interesting.
yeah, I talked about that a little bit on the last episode because I know you were on a different podcast about Warcraft.
Yes, and I feel bad because bagged and bored I'm so sorry because I was like, oh man, these are like my personal friends that I hang out with, and I'm blanking on the exact name of their podcast, but I think it's that's
the
show.
series.
Damn it, I'm so bad. I'm sorry. Pixel Brain is anyway, damn it. They do a podcast. It's more nerd related though. This is a horror genre podcast, but theirs is more nerd. So I can actually relate to their shit more. And they had me on there because of the 3 hosts, Kent Carney, Lauren Klein, Craig Williams. We're all nerds, but none of them had played World of Warcraft. I played avidly for almost 3 years. Lauren had played Warcraft, and she also has been an avid D&D player at Dungeons and Dragons, but neither.
I can't believe they never touched World of Warcraft. Like even for a trial,
the same thing. Like
yeah, I just can't believe they never even like booted up a trial. You know what I mean? Because it's so old now. Like
right, it's a classic. But neither Craig nor Kent had played either game, and so they had me on as the expert. I was the WoW expert, and so I got to explain. I think I was incorrect on a few things. I played avidly for almost 3 years, but that was like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So because my computer got old and had trouble with the new patches, and then I also got like busy in real life. So my real life got in the way of my game playing. So anyway, but that was fun. It's Warcraft. If you played the game and you're really into it, you will be able to watch the movie and enjoy it just for the sheer fact of all the game references. And you'll be like, oh, that mage just sheeped someone or whatever. Or, oh, that's Thrall in the basket in the river. Like, you'll be able to see all that stuff and be like, oh. But if you're like William and you've never played the game, you're going to either fall asleep or just be like, what the fuck is going on? And then just be done.
Yeah.
That's my review.
what did they think of it since they hadn't played it?
Pretty much the same thing. Like Lauren was like, nah, it's not worth anyone's time if you played it or not. And then Craig and Kent were both like, it was entertaining enough because the CGI actually wasn't terrible.
It was
there was just no definable plot at all whatsoever.
It was a big hit in China.
Wow.
Because it made like $40 million in the U.S. and made almost all the money in China.
But
I mean, I was interested because it was Duncan Jones who did Moon and Source Code.
Who's the son of David Bowie.
Yeah, David Bowie's son.
Yeah,
And his dad died when the movie was in production, I believe.
if nothing else, watch it with someone like me, and I can explain shit to you
Yeah.
as it's going on.
But yeah, so
I was hoping that was going to be good, but I skipped on it.
well, there was a while where Sam Raimi was attached to it, and then he eventually dropped out of it.
Well, they just asked Sam Raimi to do something.
So there's a bunch of rumors about who's going to direct the Flash movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then right now, I think they're talking about Robert Zemeckis directing it, who did Back to the Future and a bunch of other stuff.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah,
I've
didn't
been
he?
watching that recently.
I need to watch that
Forrest
again.
Gump. I think
Did
he's
he
done.
do Forrest Gump?
I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. But they had talked to a bunch of different people. I know like Kevin Smith was like tweeting, he's like, well, there's one director who won't drop out of a project I'm aware of. And it's like, yeah, I don't think they want you, Kevin Smith. But
Yeah, I watched. What did I watch? I watched Get Out again because Nicole didn't go to theaters to see
did
it.
you?
Yeah, so because you can I did that thing where you buy it on Vudu, so you get it digitally, but then they send you the disc when the disc is released. So you still have
Cool.
it. So I watched that again, and I don't know, it's a very cool experience watching the second time as well, just because it's
Right.
everything going on. And normally I'm fine about not blurting stuff out, but I was almost thinking I have to reserve myself to not make any comments,
Right.
because I will spoil any of this for her. You know what I mean? If I
Right.
just even maybe react a certain way to certain scenes and stuff, which I won't spoil any of it right now, but but I really like that movie, and there was a big contrast between watching that and Alien. And I'm not saying quality, I'm saying
yeah.
the type of horror movie, because that
Yeah.
was all suspense and build up, and Alien is just a slasher film. It
Yeah.
doesn't have any of that suspense and build up of the best parts of the other Alien films, or at least the first Alien. And then what else did I watch? I watched the last 2 episodes of Twin Peaks again,
Yeah.
just because I didn't have time to watch the whole series, and I'm actually going to thumb through that book of yours today.
Yeah,
'Cause I keep
Secret History of
forgetting
Twin
to. Yeah,
Peaks.
but I watched the last 2 episodes, and I watched Firewalk with Me again. And then I also watched, which I kind of watching Firewalk with Me. They keep saying that's integral to understanding or to the new season at least.
Yeah.
And now I'm after watching, I watched it several times. I'm like, all right, I think I may know if it actually connects directly as far as picking up kind of some of the hints and clues. I might kind of know what could possibly happen out of this series, at least how it's going to start off, maybe.
So Julie, you haven't seen Twin Peaks at all, right?
No.
You should watch Firewalk with Me, and I guarantee you'll hate it.
Yeah, don't watch that. Watch just have her watch the pilot episode.
Yeah.
If you're in on the pilot, then
Well, you can watch season 1 up to episode, I think 9 of season 2, and then just skip to the last 2 episodes, because season 2 gets pretty rough in the middle there.
But there's so much stuff in the last second to last episode.
Yeah.
Because even I was trying to remember okay, yeah, this happened. There's a lot of cliffhangers that are finishing up at the last 2 episodes. I think it's worth watching them. Yeah, they're not as good. Those episodes aren't as good, but if you've already made it that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've been watching a lot of the special features on that disc too. I just really like that show. But I've heard a little bit about Can's reaction. And honestly, it's kind of what I expected.
I tried to stay unsullied.
I did too. I saw one thing, and it's not saying anything about necessarily even the quality. It's just some reactions to it,
Yeah.
which I.
Well, with any David Lynch thing, I think you're going to get a pretty mixed reaction.
Yeah. So I'm
we need to do some of his movies.
Super pumped.
Maybe we can do Wild at Heart at some point. That's a
I just watched
more accessible movie.
that somewhat recently. Did we not do Blue Velvet before?
We haven't done any of his movies, I think.
I really like Blue Velvet.
Yeah,
also.
Blue Velvet. That's a pretty straightforward movie.
Yeah, but I'm so hyped for tonight. I was way more excited for Twin Peaks than I was Alien, because we got Prometheus. You know what I mean? And I saw that Alien trailer, and I was like, well, this looks a lot like the first Alien, and I've seen that movie, and it's not that though. It's not completely that, but also in some ways it's way more that than I thought it was going to be.
So
you want to roll into it?
Yeah. So now moving to our review of Alien Covenant, we'll hold all the spoilers to the end. We'll just go over general thoughts on the movie and not spoil the big story elements of it. And yeah, so the movie is Alien Covenant. It's directed by Ridley Scott again. It's the sequel to Prometheus and still a prequel to the Alien series with Ripley and all the stuff that happened in those series. And this movie the thing that I would recommend doing before you see this movie, because a lot of times there's stuff that comes out in movies, they'll show like the first 10 minutes of footage or stuff like that. And I think that's too much and they spoiled too much. For this movie, there were prequel short films I think you actually do need to watch, because there's one that introduces the captain and crew and the characters and shows you what the relations to each other are. And there's a prequel series that shows stuff that happened after Prometheus that I think you should probably see. And those are the two you need to see. The other ones I think are just more of just like there's like footage of like an android being created of like Michael Fassbender or the Walter android or whatever, like stuff like that's not really story wise. But those other two I think need to be seen.
I never watched the one that is like directly after Prometheus.
I mean,
like I said, I'm like I don't even want any more of this. I'm going to go back and watch it now, but
they cover a little bit of it in the movie. And they cover the information, but there's a little bit more to it you get from the short film. It's only like 2 minutes, so. But
I was just almost already tired of all the alien marketing before I even saw the film. You know, I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop because I want to go into the film being as excited as possible, not feeling like I've already consumed all this Alien Covenant stuff before I even walk into the theaters.
At the box office this weekend, the movie made $36 million, which is domestically, which is less than the expectations were, because Prometheus premiered to $51 million back in 2012. And internationally or globally, it's at $117 million currently. So at the end of the day, since it was shot on a budget of like $97 million, it'll probably turn a profit when you take into account the global box office. But in the U.S., it's probably going to struggle to make over $100 million, which will be interesting to see how it plays out week to week, because like the reactions that I've heard about this movie are mixed. Because I've heard some people really liked it, and I've seen people on Facebook talk about it and how they really liked it. A lot of people really hated it, and like it's gotten relatively decent reviews. Like right now on IMDb, it's 6.9 out of 10 on the user score, and it's a Metacritic score of 66. And the Rotten Tomatoes, I saw that it had like an ad for it that showed like 90. It wasn't that it had a 90%. It was that 90% of top critics liked it.
Oh.
Right now it's at 73% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What was Prometheus at?
Prometheus was one that actually, like, the reviews to it initially weren't that bad. I just spelled it wrong. Yeah, because Prometheus was one where the scores came out and it was relatively decent, and then it's just a lot of people really hated the movie. Why is it doing this?
Search for Ridley Scott. I walked out of Prometheus liking that
It's
movie.
a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, so right around the same as Alien Covenant.
I walked out of the theater liking Prometheus quite a bit. I feel like it gave me a lot of new stuff. I loved Alien, that's why I was excited for it, but I wasn't like, oh, I just want to see aliens. Just having one at the end was cool enough for me where it didn't rely on that. It teased just enough, and like some of the scenes out of that I felt were good. Like they were very strong contenders as being some of my favorite scenes out of the Alien franchise.
Well,
you know,
the medbay pod thing.
I thought that was amazing. That was up there with the chest burster.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, where she got in the pod.
Yeah, I thought that
and
was
had her
incredible.
uterus sticking out with the baby. Oh my god, that was
and
amazing.
Then, the guy walking up on the that was infected, trying to walk on the ship, and Charlize Theron, she's telling him like stay back, and then he walks in and lights her up. The creature jumping off, or the guy in the suit jumping off, and that whole fight scene. Like I thought there was some incredible sequences in that film.
And then the snake thing.
Yeah, I mean that was fine. Like that was dumb. And that was just okay. That wasn't even one of my favorite scenes, so I didn't care that it was not that great.
What was the snake thing? I can't remember.
That's what everybody complained about.
So the snake thing, like they were in like the cave that had like the engineer head statue thing, and then all the containers of the black ooze goop stuff. And then when they were in there, since they all had their helmets off, they had changed the environment, and it started like getting melty or something. So some of the black ooze got on the ground, and these little space slugs got in it, and they were turned into the cobra-looking larger white snake thingies that killed the two guys that stayed behind in.
See, I don't remember that at all.
Basically, there's a little snake thing that comes up and he like puts his hand out and it grabs his hand.
Yeah,
it goes in the other's suit.
The biologist.
So it's not like a face hugger, but it's the same sort of like attack. Like it's a small thing that attacks them and wraps around.
The biologist. So the biologist and the geologist get lost, or the geologist or cartographer or whatever. The guy that was in charge of mapping. So the guy that's in charge of mapping gets them lost. And then the guy that's the biologist touches or reaches out to touch this animal that looks like it's going to be dangerous. And so then people were concerned about the characters being dumb. in Prometheus, they did do dumb things. So fast forward to Alien Covenant.
But also, too, those little dumb things. I mean, I guess they were sort of integral to kind of what the events in the film. But I feel like those were small moments, that were like, oh, that's a little dumb thing here, a dumb thing there.
Right.
And I don't know, it just didn't bother me as bad in that. On the whole, it wasn't like, Covenant, though, I think it had some major things that stood out to me.
Covenant had, there were some little like ripples of dumb things in Prometheus, but Covenant was just like an avalanche and tidal wave of just continuing. We sent the dumbest people in this field. Well,
yeah, and like they were for hire in Prometheus. I'm not saying I'm justifying it, but like it was like you could tell they were kind of a ragtag group of people for hire. Granted, it was, this was a very important mission. I liked that Prometheus, there was a big reason behind this mission and everything. This film retreads a lot of Alien 1 in a very like by the numbers way that seems almost like, okay, we just got to get from A to B and here's a reason for it. And it doesn't sell you on that reason enough. And the people, they make dumb decisions, but assuming their responsibilities, again, not spoiling any of that because I think that's a big part of it, assuming their responsibilities in the film, they should have had much smarter people making decisions on that ship, on the Covenant, because,
Well, basically, the high-level overview of this story, without giving spoilers, stuff that you find out in the first 10 minutes, the ship...
I don't think you should say anything about what's on it other than the people.
Well, you're just saying, like, there's a Covenant, the ship Covenant is on an expedition to do terraforming that has 2,000 human passengers and the crew of 15. And their goal is to get to this distant planet with all this equipment, machinery they have, and to turn it into a planet that can be inhabited by humans. And then they'll stay there and live there. Kind of like in Aliens, there's like they colonize and terraform the planet and stuff like that. So they're going to a planet to colonize and all that stuff. The fact that the movie doesn't just end up like being a like happy-go-lucky sci-fi rom-com or something tells you that doesn't actually happen. But like I don't want to spoil any of the specific story stuff, but that's the basic setup, and that's what the goal is. As opposed to like the first Alien, they were like on a mining mission or whatever, and like all the Alien, like I think that those movies work well when you have like the normal characters doing their jobs. And Aliens had Marines who were doing their job, so like there's stuff like that I think works well.
Alien 1, it was company protocol for them to go check out that message because that's what the company kind of had them lined up to do. So they were just following orders. They weren't making dumb decisions on their own accord. It was like they were kind of forced in that position, basically. And that's what makes it all the better. And you have more sympathy for them because you think, oh, what would you in that situation? Well, if you're working, you do your job. You know what I mean? Like this film is a lot of things happening, based on people making decisions. But also, too, a lot of things that happen, they're setting up some of the same things that happen in Alien. You know what I mean? Like they're going down to a planet, all that stuff. So it's not interesting stuff, and it's happening in the same way. So there's like nothing interesting about that. Like the beginning of this, actually, honestly, the first act wasn't that bad. There was some dumb stuff in there, but I thought it was okay because you were learning about, the ship, what's on it, all this stuff. I thought that was all right. The middle stretch, I think, was very, I don't know, I think that was pretty weak. But I liked the third act. But like on the whole, there was nothing like stellar in the film that I walked away thinking, that was any of the moments like Prometheus or anything like that. Even though there's a lot of gore, obviously there's a big crew, so that it lends to a lot of people possibly getting killed, which you can probably guess how that goes. But like, and I told you guys in the chat, because Derek was like, I got to know what was your reaction. And it's like, honestly, while watching it, I didn't have much of a reaction. And that's like the worst thing for a supposed horror film is to kind of not have anything at all going on. Like you're just watching it happen. And
on that note, so if people didn't see me on previous podcasts and hear my story that I am a self-proclaimed big baby when it comes to scary movies, the reason why I haven't seen a lot of scary movies is because I'm very squeamish. I watch them like this. For people who aren't able to see me, my eyes are covered with my hands. Whoever has the misfortune of watching this scary movie with me, and he's had to experience this a couple of times. I watched it with my eyes covered, and I turn to the person next to me and say, "What's going on? What's going on now?" And they're like, "Just put your hand." I'm like, "No, I don't see it." I'm a huge baby. I even went to cover my eyes a couple of times during Get Out, and that's not gory at all. It's just more
Suspense.
it's just suspense.
It builds
and
tension.
It builds up tension. But that's why I felt the need to cover my eyes a couple of times, because I could see like a jump scare coming or something. Whereas, all that being said, not once did I feel the need or urge to cover my eyes. Not once did I feel scared. Not once was I shocked or creeped out or anything. No, I take that back. There were a couple of kills where I was like, "Oh God, but like I never once was like, "Oh no, I can't look at this because I'm gonna have nightmares," as a self-proclaimed big baby when it comes to scary movies. So that being said, if I can watch Alien Covenant and not for a single moment jump or when I cover my eyes, that says something.
Yeah, it's like, as you mentioned before, it very much is just like a slasher film in that you're getting these kills. In the first Alien, I mean, they said, and we've talked about it before, it's like a haunted house film set in space.
Yeah.
And that's what haunted house films are. It's a lot of anticipation, and even if there's nothing there, you're still creeped out because you're expecting something. And that's all that first film was just a lot of tension and great suspense. And it feels like Ridley Scott, he's way more interested in kind of the themes that this film tries to bring out rather than the alien part, obviously because he abandoned that in Prometheus. Yeah. And now he's just kind of, it feels like he's just throwing stuff at the screen to kind of satiate those fans. Like, okay, here's your alien thing. And instead of like spending, 10 minutes building up a suspenseful moment or whatever, he kind of just gives you those kills in bulk sometimes.
And two, the setting of a lot of the movies matters because in Alien, they're on the single ship. I mean, it's once they land on the planet and the facehugger stuff happens, they get back on their ship and it's all taking place there. And then in Aliens, they, go to this planet and they're like more in confined spaces. And like Prometheus was a little bit more wide open, but they're mostly in those catacombs and stuff. But in this movie, so they land on this planet. So it's a wide open planet, but most of it all takes place within a relatively small proximity of this entire planet. Mm-hmm. And like in Alien, it felt a lot of times in Aliens and, even Alien 3 and stuff like that, the scares or the tension is built by the fact you're in these enclosed spaces. There's all these things happening. As opposed to this movie, I feel like they're like in a huge place and then just like shit just happens to happen exactly where they're at.
Right.
And there's no real buildup to it. It just kind of happens. Mm-hmm. And the characters, like I was telling, like when me and Julie were talking, I was talking about like in the movie, a lot of the characters felt like they were out of a Friday the 13th film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that they did very dumb things that simply allowed them to be in a location by themselves to be a victim. Right. And like Prometheus had really dumb character moments, but like it wasn't one after another and every character doing dumb things. And there's a few times where a character would do something, I just kind of shake my head and it's like, really? Like after what you just saw, you're going to go do this? And I mean, granted, like in real life, when people are going through like situations that are shocking or they've experienced stuff that's traumatic, they may not make the clearest decisions. But just when multiple characters in a row make the dumbest...
Yeah, they're a hella cautious, though. Like, even the least common sense people are, after experiencing, are going to be cautious and not want to be alone.
Yeah.
Like, in a scary and natural environment.
Well, and two, like... It's
on
not,
an alien planet.
And it's not about, like, I don't want to feel like we're just nitpicking, like, oh, they're doing this dumb thing. It all matters because when they're not when you're kind of thinking the characters are dumb in a certain way, like if they're not forced in that situation, then it's hard to feel sorry for them,
right?
Or to have any suspense. You know what I mean? Like when things are just happening, you feel like the movie is just trying to get you in a position, like the movie's manipulating you and just saying, hey, we're just going to put these people here and you're going to see them get killed. It breaks down the experience. It's not about specific like nitpicking all these little moments. It's just on the whole, it weakens the whole movie as far as the horror elements. Like, and that's what this is. It's like half horror film, half sci-fi. And when I say half sci-fi, I mean it is something like, like Blade Runner or Ex Machina, where it is very much a lot of talking philosophical stuff. And I feel like Prometheus did a lot better job of blending those two elements.
Yeah.
This feels heavy-handed. In the first one, you got your horror setup. The second act is, philosophical discussions that go on for a while. The third act is your
Climax.
horror climax again. And I don't think it does a good job of bridging all those things together.
Well, and to your point, this movie just was not well written. And it's really a shame that it is necessary to give a rat's ass about these characters. It is necessary to watch those YouTube prequel short films. You guys mentioned that on the podcast, right? We talked about it earlier before we started filming.
Yeah, we when you were on for Get Out, they just had the one that went out, like the crew and stuff.
Yeah, I meant for this one. Sorry. There's
the prequel is basically them sitting around a table before they go into hypersleep.
Yes.
Which is where this film opens up, basically.
Yes.
So you kind of get a feel for their camaraderie, kind of
the relationships between the characters,
how they woke up,
Yes.
how they were in the first Alien film when they woke up.
So that is, so in that prequel to this is where you see character development, where you see, and also therefore plot development in terms of when you see the characters interacting and you get a sense of who they are, the relationship to each other. Then when shit does go wrong, the stakes are high because you actually care. You're emotionally invested because you've been given a reason to care about these people. Whereas if you haven't watched that prequel, because none of that prequel is in this film. So, and I honestly had forgotten about the prequel because it came out months ago. And so when shit does go down in the actual film, it's a real crying shame because the acting is good. These actors are very talented individuals. It's the writing. That scene should have been in this film because otherwise, without that exposition and build up to the characters, when people do die, you're like, oh, was I supposed to care about
or
that?
like, who is this person?
Yeah,
Like,
who is this person? Why should I care?
Yeah, there were people getting killed in this film, and I was like, I don't know who just got killed.
Right, 'cause
and then
there's
I
so
didn't
many
miss
of
them because
them.
I'm like, I don't even know who's missing now. I don't
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
like you only know so the cast for the movie. So you do have to mention that.
Catherine Watterson, right?
Yeah.
Plays Daniels. She is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Of
great.
course, Michael Fassbender
Yeah.
is awesome. He's kind of, people have been arguing he's the main character. Walter and David are the main characters of this film.
Yeah. And then you have like Billy Crudup, who does
Yeah.
a decent enough job. I think his character is kind of underwritten.
Yeah, I think he does a good job.
Danny McBride is not like, he has like a little bit of his like swagger, but he's not Kenny Powers or anything like that.
And at least too, he feels like a real character. Like, he's still Danny McBride a little bit, but at least it's somebody I can recognize when they pop up on the screen. And it's not because of who he is. He just has a strong personality in the film too.
Like after those characters or those actors, like a lot of the characters all blend together. And you don't that like, it's no spoiler. Like most of the crew are mostly couples. Like there's a gay couple, there's married couples or stuff like that. So I think that the point was when they got to this planet, they'll be colonizing it and living there. So that's why they got, people are going over as couples in addition to all the passengers that were on the ship. So that was laid out in that prequel film, but not so much in the movie.
Not at all in the movie.
That is a cool dynamic. I don't think they play with it enough because even if you don't have a bond between these characters, they do. You know what I mean? It makes some of them stronger because you can feel for them. I think that was a cool thing and it worked a little bit, but I don't think it worked to maximum benefit.
The only character that even really had any relationship on screen between the husband and wife was Tennessee, which was the Danny McBride character and his wife. Yeah. And the rest of them you didn't really see too much.
Nope, the captain.
Well, the captain you did, but like I don't want to spoil stuff, but like it just seems like they had elements to play into that. And they just, I don't know, it just felt like it devolved into a slasher film.
I really want to see if they have a lot more of this shot and they've kind of shaped it more in the edit, because I would love to see an extended version of this, because I could see that. I could see me loving that and giving it like a 9 out of 10.
If it was actually a part of the film.
Yeah, if they if they had some stuff they cut out on all those elements and kind of, but the way it's cut now and the things they've cut out of it, and obviously they shot a lot because I'm sure that promotional material, some of it may have been shot intentionally for the web. Some of it is probably deleted scenes,
Well, and so on that note, I honestly feel sorry for the actors. Speaking as an actor who's been in films where once we perform, so we can read the script, we can talk to the director and see what they're talking about wanting to do. Once we're done filming, it's out of our control. We have no idea how it's going to be edited, what's going to be cut, what will make a final cut. We have no idea what music they'll use, what like editing shit they'll do afterwards. That's out of our control. So I honestly pity these actors who did a great performance, and they put in all that time and effort of having the prequels that were on YouTube. And so on their end, they were able to give such good performances because they already had that exposition and the relationships among the characters to pull from for what did make that cut in this final edit of the film. So that's why their acting was so good, because they already knew going in, okay, well, I have this relationship with this person because XYZ, and we have this background and all this stuff. What sucks is that the actual final product as it is right now has none of that in it. So the audience is not going to care when these actors are giving amazing performances. And so from my perspective, like from actor to actor, I'm like, sorry guys, you guys put in all the work. You guys did a great job. If only that prequel was in this movie, then it would make sense. Then I would be crying when you're crying over so-and-so dead. You know, like, just speaking from that perspective, I'm like, that sucks.
Yeah.
That really fucking sucks.
Well, yeah. So, and two, I think that the movie wanted to close the loop on Prometheus or get out of that type of movie and get more to the traditional alien type movie with face huggers and xenomorphs and all that stuff in it. And I feel like in doing that, they kind of gave you two halves of movies. And one half of the movie was kind of just trying to be close to Alien, the original Alien. Then the other half was trying to close off these like Sean's like Blade Runner, these higher minded concepts. And I think in doing that, you didn't really get enough of either thing that you wanted.
No.
Because like Prometheus created more questions than it answered, which some people hated it, some people liked it. I liked it. And I think this one didn't really, it answered all your questions for the most part and didn't really do it in a satisfying way.
I think it did some cool stuff with David though.
I mean, Michael Fassbender's performance as David and Walter was great. I mean, and that was the core.
And
of the
I like
movie.
I like what they did with David in this, and as I said, like I didn't like walk out of the theaters loving this film. I didn't have much reaction. That being said, now that I know what this is, I'm interested to watch it again and maybe even give it some time, because I could see myself liking it more. I could see this growing on me now that I know what to expect, and maybe now I can pay attention to some of the other elements. When I know, like, okay, these elements didn't work for me, let me figure out this part of it and to see, and there may be some moments in here that I really love. There are some that I like right now, but there may be some things that I maybe connect with more in the future after having expectations set in place. I could see that happening for sure. And I also Derek did not like the film at all.
Yeah.
He said he hopes it bombs so they don't make another one.
Yeah.
They've already got the script written. They're supposed to shoot in May of 2018.
Yeah.
I honestly, walking out, I was like, I didn't love the film, but I really want to see where this goes. Like, I want to see them at least make one more.
See if they can redeem themselves.
And I honestly, I think because he went so far on trying to give the quote unquote alien fans, quote unquote, what they wanted, what some of them wanted, that now hopefully he feels like he kind of delivered on that, and he's like, okay, I gave you that, now give me this. And hopefully he'll kind of go back and have more of a balance in the next one, because I really like where this is going. Just like I loved where Prometheus was going, and this kind of reset things and didn't really isn't really like a direct follow-up to that. But having said that, I think it's smart that they don't do direct follow-ups, because the Alien films have rarely ever been direct follow-ups. I know, like Aliens, they were going to make James Cameron Alien 3, and that was essentially going to be a direct follow-up. I've always been in the camp that I'm glad everyone breaks from what you think the next one's going to be. Aliens was more of an action film.
They haven't had the continuity of director and writer.
Yeah, and I kind of like that. Like an Alien 3, totally different. Alien 4, totally nuts. Prometheus is different than all of those. And that's what this one, so much of this seems like the same. And it's like, that's what I always liked about the Alien films. For better or for worse, you got a different experience out of each one of those.
Yeah, just the movie ultimately, like, it didn't really give, like, when I was watching it, like, nothing made me sit back and go, visually, it looked great, but nothing really made me sit back and go, ooh, because, like, with Prometheus, there was stuff where I sat back and I was like, that's a visually spectacular thing. Mm-hmm. And this one
was the exact same stuff.
Or intense sequences.
Exact same.
I think the third act is pretty good in this. I like the third act.
It's just like
some of those sequences were kind of like, oh, that's awesome. That's a cool moment.
I guess too, like, we keep dancing around spoilers, so we can just kind of give our scores on it and then move into spoiler discussion.
Yeah, at this point.
So if I had to give this a score out of 10, this is kind of tough to do. because like right now, like I said, like on Rotten Tomatoes it's 73%. On like IMDb, it's got like a 6.9 out of 10 user score, 66 Metacritic. Like, it's not a terrible movie. I've seen far worse movies. Like rewatching this versus Alien 3, I'd rather rewatch this than or Alien Covenant than Alien 3, which we did on the podcast a few weeks ago. But like to me, it comes absolutely nowhere close to Alien or Aliens. It's in, and then beyond, I think it's a funny series because you have Alien and Aliens, and then beyond that, everyone's in a toss-up as to what they like. Because you have Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, then Prometheus, then Alien Covenant. The order of those in terms of fans is all over the place, and even me, I go back and forth on what I like better or not. But if I had to give it a score out of 10, it's like 5. Like, not terrible. I might rewatch. Like, it's not a terrible film. Like, it's not poorly written. I mean, I didn't like the writing on it. It's well acted. It looks good. Some of the CG I wasn't big on. But, it's a movie I'll want to go back to maybe at some point. Like you said with Sean, like maybe they have a director's cut or there's more stuff that got cut out that makes it make more sense and flesh it out. But as it is, like, a 5 is about as high as I can go. That's just saying, like,
I
don't know.
It's kind of bad when I was looking at my Alien quadrilogy thinking, well, I don't really have to buy that again because I don't care about adding this, like, to my collection. Like, it wasn't one that I was like, ooh, I'm definitely going to watch this a lot.
Or maybe I'm going to go back. It's 4.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know. It just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Julie?
I'll go last.
All right. Honestly, my initial reaction, like I said, I didn't walk out hating it. I feel like I need to kind of watch it again. I would still probably give it a 7 because, yeah, it wasn't terrible. I like some moments out of it. And there's enough there thematically that I don't think was maybe delivered in the most elegant ways, but at least it left me thinking, oh, that's kind of cool, or this is kind of cool. And also, too, I've read just a couple things about it. I think that's kind of cool, too. Granted, like I said, I think it's going to take some rewatches, but I never wanted to walk out of the theaters. I kept wanting to see what was going to happen in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even though I thought some dumb things were happening, whatever, I still was interested in where it was all going. And at least I stayed interested in the film, because if I'm not interested in the film, that's when I feel like for me it drops below like a 5 or something like that. When I'm just kind of like, I don't really care about this at all. But I would still, I don't know how I would rate this versus Alien 3 and even Alien. Like, I think it's worse than Alien 4 as far as my entertainment value, because that movie's crazy, and that's what I love about it, and that gives me a lot of reactions when I watch it. This not so much, but I'd probably give it about a 7. I maybe hate it more later on. I may like it more. I don't know.
So Julie,
I'm gonna separate two things. The acting alone gets an 8. Because the actors who were in it gave it their all. I believed them.
It's a good cast.
Good cast. Every single person I believed. There were like 2 actors, I think, where I was like, but one of the guys had like 3 lines. So what are you going to do with that? So the acting gets like an 8, maybe 9. I would say closer to 9, actually, just because, like, again, the actual leads were solid. They knew what they were doing. The movie as a whole, 4. At most. I have not seen, I've seen Prometheus. I saw the original Alien. I've seen bits and pieces of Aliens and Alien 3 or whatever, but I could not speak to those films, unfortunately. However, I would, maybe not to the hardcore nerd fans, but I do consider myself a big Alien fan because I love the first movie. It's one of my favorite films because it's just well written. It's well executed. It has a strong female lead who saves the cat. Like there's many things why it appeals to me. And the beauty of that character in that film is that, from what I understand, it initially was written as a male character, but they just happened to cast Sigourney Weaver, and really all they did was like change pronouns and some costume
and there
choices,
wasn't
probably.
Like romantic relationship between her and the crew member.
Probably changed the wardrobe too based on the final scene of that movie.
But even then it wasn't like, oh, now you're in a cut off crop top where your nipples are exposed. Like it still was not a sexual costume.
Yeah.
She just happens to be an attractive woman in good shape who is running around being badass. And anyway, so it's just a good film. And they
You know,
have
my
the
dog's name's
iconic.
Ripley.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I've
That's
also
funny.
too 10 out of 10 for Alien for me. I love that film.
Yeah.
It's just so well done. Iconic creature, you know. Anyway, so because I'm in love with that film, I saw Prometheus, and pretty much what Sean said, I agree with wholeheartedly in terms of like, you know, but also what William said too, in terms of it kind of just raised more questions and answered. It was really cool to see, like, instead of enclosed on a ship, oh, they're in this beautiful planet. The CGI was good. The alien beings were cool. You know, and then it had those really iconic moments of like her in the med chamber where she has her uterus, like the makeshift abortion or whatever. I was like, oh
The
man.
most graphically filmed abortion scene of all time.
it's
Aside from those propaganda films against abortion.
right, basically.
Should
But
get Ridley Scott to direct those.
yeah, they should. Much more entertaining, at least. But like, yes, it was just like that. Also, that's a badass thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, her character was super cool.
She was a way better character than
Yeah.
Daniels in this, and not to say the
Yeah,
acting
New
ability,
Response
Yeah,
is
it's
but
just
strong.
how they
how
wrote
it's
the
written.
character. Yeah,
Well,
like,
there was a narrative arc for the character of Elizabeth
Yeah.
Shaw.
yeah, she
Yeah.
was so great. I loved her.
So,
I really wanted to see her back.
You know,
as
so
lead.
even Prometheus, I wasn't like in love with it, but I was able to like watch it and be like, okay, well, it's not as good as I was hoping, but I was like, okay with it. With this, I went in, and even though a couple of things in the trailer I was iffy about, I went in and was just like, okay, well, I'm really excited about this. The prequel stuff on YouTube was really promising. They're going to have like this character build. They have a gay couple. That's progressive, right? But no, nope. It was essentially like going on a date with what you think is going to be your dream guy, and he ends up just being like a douche who lives in his mom's basement and doesn't have his own car. And like, that's pretty much what it felt like. I just felt like I was because I wanted to walk out. Like I legitimately, because about halfway through, I'm like, is there a plot? Did I miss the plot? Did I miss what's actually what we're supposed to be looking for? Because we're halfway through, and I'm pretty good with it going slow initially, but we're starting to have things happen with like kills and stuff, and I don't know what we're supposed to look forward to happening. Like I don't know what the point of this movie is.
I think you're supposed to look forward to seeing David, and you're waiting for him to pop up.
I mean, frankly, the point of this film is just an excuse to have alien kill scenes. To me, that was the point of this film. They had a lot of build up, no character development within the actual film itself, and a lot of just, you would think that, what's his name, Fassbender?
Michael
Yeah.
Fassbender.
You would think Michael Fassbender wrote this to be self-indulgent as an actor, just because he was great, and there was just so much of him doing great things, but nothing actually happening or working towards. So there was no like, okay, we're stepping forward in a story towards an end goal or end plot. There was none of that. No
He
discernible
just had a lot of
plot.
exposition dumps.
A lot of exposition that still didn't really explain or do anything
Yeah.
other than like, well, this android's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry. I was extremely let down. I was sitting next to William, and like, I don't know if you noticed, but I had points where I was just like, what?
Yeah, I could tell that there were
What?
points where you were like,
Are you fucking kidding
like-
me? You have X budget, you have this like history of this film, and you chose to go with this. You're goddamn Ridley Scott, and you're making these choices. Who the fuck bought you out to make this like overdone trope of slasher film bullshit?
like, yeah.
I was just like,
The fans bitched.
well, no, but they're not. But they're not real. Arguably, and someone can get pissed at me if they want. Arguably, those are not real fans, because the reason why Alien stood out among the other films of that time, and even to this day, is because there are not overused slasher tropes in it.
Yeah.
You do have a female lead who is not over sexualized, who is on her own because she was written like a goddamn man in the first place.
People don't know what they want. That's the
They
thing.
don't know
and
what
that's
they
why
want.
Prometheus, he didn't give them exactly what they
And,
wanted,
like-
and that's why it was more interesting.
like-
than
Yeah,
this
and I'm
film.
like, if you just want a bunch of alien kills, fine, but don't make that its own separate like fan film like Rob Zombie did with 13 or something. Don't
31.
like or 31. I haven't actually seen it. There's a 1 and a 3 in there, but like, yeah, like do
that's
that
a
shit.
funny comparison.
But yeah,
because
do
that's
that.
not too far off on some of the moments of this film.
It's
Like-
not.
like
but
with-
then, like, for people like me who actually enjoy the reasons why Alien Alien was different and why it's a good film, make a good film that's actually unique. But nothing in this film is unique. You use the exact same set, and the reason why Prometheus was different and fun to look at, they just used all that shit in this film. The reason why, like, all the kill scenes in this, it's like, I've seen an alien burst through a body before. Check. What next? What are you going to throw me now?
Like, that's what was so awesome. Like you were mentioning before we started, like, you didn't see much of the alien in that first film. You know, that's why I love Prometheus. It did something different because the cat's out of the bag with the xenomorph.
So in
Alien,
this one was not different.
In Alien, you have a number of iconic moments with the alien creature, and a lot of it you don't see a lot. It's obscured. But I mean, part of it's like the practicality of the effects and the way they shot it.
It's almost every moment it pops up on the screen is an iconic moment. And anytime you actually see it is a great moment in that film.
So you have that, and you contrast that with Aliens, where there's a shit ton of xenomorphs on the screen, but they still manage to have some incredibly iconic moments in that. When Newt's in like the sewer thing and the alien stands up, like that is a awe-inspiring shot. Like that is amazing. And then this movie had nothing approaching that. It's just kind of like blah, 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 blah.
Well, and
again, I don't think he's interested in that anymore. And I think he did it because, I mean, he kept saying, you know, the fans, I think the studio probably said, look, we got to give them a little bit. You can have a little bit of your kind of.
Well, the ultimate thing was, he said before they made the Alien movies, I think even in some of the commentary on stuff from the Alien quadrilogy, he had talked about having an interest in Alien when they're on the ship. They see the space jockey, and he's like, where did that guy come from? Or that creature, where did that come from? What is it? Like, Prometheus attempted to do that, and then this movie, I don't think, really fulfilled that promise, and then just got it closer to being like an Alien 3 type thing. So that'll wrap up our review section. Now I can move into spoilers, but before that, if you're listening via iTunes, you can do us a huge favor and go out and leave a review that helps other people find the podcast and helps us move up the podcast charts. So that's very useful if you can do that. And if you follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, you can find links to all those at housebyvideostore.com. That's where you can find all of our content. We have a new short film that'll be coming out at some point in the future once we figure out the situation of it getting into festivals or not. But we'll have more information on that to come. There's some other ones we're probably planning to shoot, so keep an eye out on all that type of stuff. And then if you want to find Julie on the internet, you can find the best place to follow her is her acting page on Facebook, which is just Julie Strebel-actress, right?
Yes.
I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. So you can find the stuff she's doing there. She was in a book trailer recently. So a trailer for a book.
Called Shadow Rider or Reaper. I think it's Shadow Rider.
Yeah.
By Christine Freehand.
So I'm sure there's a huge crossover with our audience and that book audience.
But no, she's like a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah, it's big time.
Yeah, apparently I think it's USA Today, the website, is going to be showing the book trailer on like May 29th or something. But I mean, it already has like 30,000 views since it was released. I'm a super small blip in the trailer, but it was.
I think I may have watched that.
It was good.
And then
it's like Corum. Is Corum in that too?
Yes.
Yeah, because I saw like, you know, they're like a blip too, like they're like standing there together.
Yeah, he and John Wells, and then but it was fun to do. It was a 1-day shoot, and the lead actress in it, her name's Alex, and she's really good in it. So the people who do have bigger parts in the trailer are very, very good. So.
Yeah, and Julie may be in our upcoming short film after the slasher.
Maybe.
If you saw any of those pictures we posted, we'll have more behind-the-scenes pictures, too. We're just waiting until it gets closer to the time, because there's stuff in there that's slightly spoilery that we'll wait until release after it's out. But,
and my baby sister's in it in her film debut.
Yes, so keep an eye out for that.
I was very excited to work with her on something.
But now we move into our discussion spoiler of Alien Covenant. And if you haven't seen the movie, I'd recommend waiting till you have seen it to listen to the spoilers, because I think it could ruin stuff for you. But so
yeah, definitely.
So just to start off, so the movie shows a flashback to Wayland and David when David was first created, and it's Guy Pearce in a minimal amount of aging makeup, which actually looks okay. Unlike the makeup they had on him in Prometheus, where he's caked to the nth degree and looks like something from the Neverending Story.
He looked like a character out of Austin Powers.
Yeah.
So they made the wise choice to just have less aging makeup on him, and it looked okay. It looked pretty good. So you jump from that to the Covenant ship. Like we said, it cut out. It did not have.
Well, too, like he. So beginning with that also too, he's playing Wagner, who was a favorite of Adolf Hitler's.
Yeah.
And David is definitely into eradicating species.
And he's
Later on.
somewhat of an Aryan with that, that blonde hair.
And then it was pointed out also, you know, he names himself David, who, after he sees a statue of David, and that is a piece of artwork that outlived its creator, you know, and that's kind of, you know, there's like a lot of cool things in there, but again, I think I'm gonna have to watch a lot too, you know, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I think that was very important because it starts off with David. And again, like I do think he's the main character of this because it is the most interesting things in the film as far as having to do with this series of Prometheus and Covenant have to do with him.
Well,
the most important things.
Basically, the thing that when you think about it that is somewhat problematic is when you see the original Alien and you see that they find the spaceship and they find the eggs and they find the space jockey, and then Aliens, you find the Queen Alien, you find all these different things. And they build out the mythology of the aliens in the universe, and they're just scary. You don't know where they came from. You don't know what the space jockey is. The idea that you don't know what it is, and it's like this, you know, this thing that predates humans, all that stuff. It's scary. It's, you know, it makes you think about things, and it's interesting. In this movie, so what you essentially find out is that the xenomorph aliens, as you see in the Alien series, are created by David, essentially. Because they found the black goo that was it was essentially like a biological warfare weapon that the engineers or the space jockeys created to wipe out humans for some reason. And I know Ridley Scott had hinted in interviews it was because in that universe that Jesus theoretically was one of the engineers, and then the humans turned on him and killed him. So the engineers then felt betrayed by the humans, wanted to kill him. That was like something he kind of hinted at in interviews. I don't think that's actually in the movie or the real text.
I think what I've seen too, and I think this is absolutely probably, you know, he's also talking about the gods reaching Valhalla and all that stuff in the opening. Basically, you know, the engineers created people. I've heard the argument that like he is basically the devil, and this is like, you know, Satan fighting the angels and stuff like that. David. So he goes and attacks on the offense of the what do they call it? The engineers, you know. Yeah. And basically he is responsible for the destruction of the engineers, and that's kind of his goal is to destroy humanity in these films to be his own god, like to be a god in and of himself. And I think that's an interesting take that, you know, this is basically he's basically like Satan in this universe. And that's why I want to see where this film is going to go, because hopefully that now that he has this bullshit, like typical alien stuff, it's not even as good as the regular alien stuff out of the way. I want to see where he goes with that. And hopefully next time he'll go bigger into the themes as far as making it feel like it's one cohesive part and not just, you know, there's an A side and B side to what the film's doing.
Well, and so do we just want to walk through from the start?
Well, we can talk through like just
so it's not just jumping around.
Yeah, the high level stuff and then like character stuff. So the Covenant ship, you don't see the prequel stuff that was in those short films, and you don't see the prequel thing. The prequel showed David and Shaw in the ship after Prometheus, where like she's helping repair him, and then they fly off from the ship, and then he puts her in one of the stasis pods that was on the ship so they can, you know, she can rest till they get to the planet. When they get to the engineer planet, it shows like his ship approaching like the docking station as he opens like the cargo bay and drops all of the canisters of the black ooze goo stuff onto the planet. In the movie, you see the aftermath of what that actually does,
which I think is like, I think that is an awesome scene in the series. Like I think that moment was pretty awesome and cool, and I was hoping, you know, you hope that it's like bigger moments like that was going to be what this film was about.
So that's what you didn't see in the movie that was in those prequels. I mean, the movie did show showed the end result of that, but not to keep jumping down to order. So that's all the stuff you didn't see in the movie that was in the prequel stuff that you would have just had to gather from the movie. So it starts with the Prometheus. They hit like a solar disturbance or some type of issue that causes like a ship malfunction, and the captain, played by James Franco, dies. Derek called it. He said that James Franco had died before the movie even started, which was right. So you had that. And then in the wake of that, and you know, some civilian casualties of the passengers that are like in the pods to be terraformed or whatever, they decide that, you know, they all get out of stasis and they're all awake, and they see that in the area they're in, there's a planet that looks more habitable than the planet they were planning to go to, which is still years away. So they decide to then check out the planet.
But the reason is, we're so scared because
Well,
Franco died. We don't get back in the pods.
Which does make some extent that, like, when they just went through a traumatic experience, people are like, well, look, we can go back in the pods for 17 years or how many years it
Or they
was.
can just chill out for a week on the ship while they travel and then go back in. You know, they have all
That's
the
what
cargo,
I
all those
said.
people. Like, if it's them and they're like,
Jesus.
oh, screw it, it's the 5 of us, let's make a
So
decision.
the- so-
but when they have like 2,000 people or
Yeah.
whatever, like, you have a bigger responsibility than being scared to go
So
back
the
into a
thing-
pod.
The
Yeah,
thing
and it
I-
was 7 years.
or whatever. It was more than
But
a year.
it was, but it's, that's exactly what I said. I'm like, no, all you have to do is chill out, have your morning, have a moment,
Yeah, get back
repair
in
the
in 2
ship.
weeks.
Yeah, spend a couple of weeks, A, getting your bearings, B, making sure the ship is good to go.
Yeah.
And then get back on fucking track. But there was no reason to inspect that planet when you
Well-
had zero information about it.
Well, the thing is, their scan said it was like an atmosphere that was Earth-like and that was able to sustain life. So they saw the planet, and then I guess the thing I didn't get was they sent almost their entire crew, including
Right.
Captain, down this planet to do the investigation. What they should have done is just sent the android Walter and like some different, like they had like a little rover drone thingy. They should have just sent him and some of the mechanical stuff, like robotic stuff and drones down and do an investigation to see if they should even have the humans come down there. Because even if the environment is, the oxygen is breathable and the gravity is right, it doesn't mean there's not
There's
things in the
Well, and
different-
air.
also too, it's like they found a spot, they land it, and then it's like they didn't even survey the planet. Like, fly around it a couple times.
Right.
Like, they're
Yeah.
just walking out in the
Right.
open. Like, there could be Tyrannosaurus Rexes running
Right.
around or
Well-
whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
that's what I was thinking about. Like, what are you doing? You don't know what
Yeah.
threats are out there.
Not only that, but it's like, we can see there's a giant hurricane-like storm directly below us. Let's go in right now.
Yeah,
Because we
yeah.
know communication will not be optimum.
Yeah,
Let's go in
that's
right
true,
now.
too.
And I'm like, but to your point, fly around, see if you can land somewhere else so there isn't a storm, or just wait until the storm fucking passes.
Yeah.
But also it's like, of the movie, the only characters who did not make idiotic decisions were essentially like Walter and Daniels. They're the only people where I wasn't like, what are you
'Cause even-
doing the entire time? And people were just selfish and self-serving. And like the captain who came to order after James Franco died, and poor James fucking Franco, like he's a well-known actor. Like
Well, he
that
probably
sucks for
shot. He
him.
probably shot like the part that he was in for the
prequel.
thing, and this movie probably in one day.
That's why we kept hearing, like, that he's in the film. Oh, he's not in the film.
Yeah.
That's why they're, because I kept hearing different things on
So,
that.
but like,
Which were both kind of right.
they go. There were just so many things wrong with that moment, though. You weren't wearing helmets. You weren't wearing biosystems to keep yourself separate, because from a biological standpoint, so number one, the odds of, I'm a pilot who's good enough to pilot this ship during all this big excursion. I happen to be married to a water expert biologist person. I'm a so-and-so. I happen to be married to so-and-so, and we both happen to be good enough that we were handpicked for this mission. So either like NASA or whomever was just desperate
Or
to
the-
find people who happened to be fucking each other to go on this mission, or it was just poor writing in terms of that was a cheap jump to try and raise the stakes for emotional audience connection to the characters by saying, they're married, so now you care more when one of them dies. And I'm like, but no, you still have to put in the effort of having like character development, otherwise I'm not gonna care.
The cooler married couple was like in Aliens, when it's like Newt's parents.
Yeah.
They just seem like everyday people that are married, and you
Right.
care about them because they seem like
Right.
an everyman or whatever. Yeah.
But like in this, there was no character development, no background. Like I cried during Toy Story 3 way more than I should have. I should have teared up at least a couple of times in this film, because so much of it, up until the killing starts happening, so much of it was just kind of hanging out and being chill. But they go there, no gloves, no mask, and we're just touching stuff. We're just touching stuff with our bare hands, because as biologists, we're not taking into consideration any kind of alien virus or bacteria. There have been times they found frozen water on asteroids or Mars. That shit is fucking quarantined. And if they do observe it, it's far fucking away from Earth, because they're fully aware, then that's real life. I don't know the actual specifics on those news stories, but they have found frozen water on asteroids and such. You don't just bring that back to Earth and say, this alien life form, because yes, bacteria from an asteroid is an alien life form, because bacteria is alive according to biology. or a virus for that matter, and a virus isn't alive and never actually dies, therefore it never really goes away. Your immune system either suppresses it or it moves on to something else.
Like, at least in Prometheus, they wore helmets for a little while before they took them off.
But in this one, you have these biologists who should know more than me, a theater major, about biology. And they're going out and doing shit. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm not even that frivolous when I'm looking at, like, shit here on Earth.
Like the 5-second rule? I mean, like, I don't want to eat something that fell on the floor. And these people are, like, touching wheat on an alien planet.
Yeah, and this is wheat. And I'm like, but do you know that?
Another thing, too, that I saw an Instagram teaser, which I was mad I saw, but it said, like, beware the wheat. But it's like the wheat wasn't even anything in the movie.
No.
It was like the little pods that...
Yeah, but still, it wasn't like it was any, other than, just that normal, like it was like everything in there.
So, like, then just to kind of keep, like, the story stuff, so then while they're on this planet, one of the guys who's like a guard or whatever that has one of the guns gets infected by pollen type stuff that goes in his ear, and then it creates like a back burster. So instead of a chest burster, it's an alien that bursts out of his back. And it's a little white alien instead of like a black xenomorph. And it looks a lot like a xenomorph. I mean, it's tall and scraggly when it's full grown.
It has a tail.
It has a tail, and it has like a mouth. Like, its face is blank until it opens its mouth, and then it has one. So, it's pretty similar to the xenomorph. It's just white. And then it causes like a big commotion in the ship, and it blows up, and Damon
No. It doesn't just blow up.
Well, it gets
that girl goes crazy and
she
shoots
does.
the canister on there. Instead of like running out, she like starts firing and causes that ship to blow up because of a dumb. I granted she's panicking. But
and
like,
she locked the other poor girl in the room.
She shoots the oxygen tanks or whatever. Like, that was another dumb reason for that ship to blow up.
Yeah.
That was, I felt like, as again, just constructed to have that drama.
That stranded the crew on the planet.
Yeah.
And then they managed, and then like the captain, Billy Crudup's character, his wife dies in the explosion too. And so like, and Daniel Bride's wife is the one that went crazy and shot the stuff. So they both so if multiple characters die that you only had a little bit of a tenuous connection to, and you mostly knew them through, unfortunately, the male characters they're married to. And then then they're stranded on the planet, and then David finds them and takes them back to a former engineer city.
He rescues them from a xenomorph attack.
Or I guess they're, I don't know, I was calling them protomorphs.
Whatever. He rescues them, which, that I want to watch that again, but that was a little confusing to me because I thought Daniels had got hit at one point because it was just somebody so quickly.
Someone got their jaw knocked off.
Yeah.
No one addressed it. No one said who died. No one said if they died. They just no longer were. And so to me, I'm like, was that like a bad editing choice?
At the end of the movie, some dude walks up without a jaw and he's like, hey.
Yeah, I mean, like, that was completely... You saw that, but to me that was kind of like a slasher
That was
trope.
kind of a cool sequence. I feel like it could have been cooler because it very much felt like something out of Jurassic Park, like with the raptors. Like, it just wasn't as well done. And I think I would have loved to have seen, we say that I'll let you get back to this thing real quick, but going to the open spaces, I would have loved to seen them like driving through there on a Jeep, like running from them or something. You know what I mean? Like, I would have liked to
go
see
faster.
some original sequences for this position they're in for this film.
Right.
Like, do something unique, just like Aliens did something unique with what they had. Alien did on the ship. Like, I want to see you out in the world kind of running. Like, you could have made some really cool original sequences based on the planet they're on. Because Prometheus wasn't one that they could run around on and stuff like that. So, anyway.
Yeah, it's just like, so you had like that type of stuff, and then they get into the alien stronghold with David, and he starts giving him some background, and his hair is grown apparently, which I guess android hair grows. I mean, in Prometheus, he did cut his hair and dye it to look more like a character from a movie he liked.
Lay out Lawrence of Arabia.
But, so, I mean, granted, maybe they just make him have more biological aspects to mimic humans, whatever. Who cares?
Well, that's what they said. They made him too human-like originally.
So you have that type of stuff, and he kind of does an exposition dump, and you find out that he's been on the planet since the Prometheus. He claimed there's an accident that let off all the canisters of the black goo, when in reality it was on purpose, and it was like a thing he was doing just to wipe out creation. And then throughout the course of it, more crew members die in dumb ways. They go off by themselves, and one woman's washing her arms that have like wounds on them in water, which
they have not tested for alien bacteria. And I'm like, I wouldn't touch water from an alien planet, let alone put my open wound in it.
If I'm on a camping trip, I'm not washing a wound off in
the
creek
creek.
Water.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even here on Earth, I would not go to a creek bed and wash. That's a great way to get gangrene or something. But like, here on Earth, number one. Number two, you've just seen half of the crew, people that you care about, even though I don't know who the fuck you are, this girl, and I don't know what the hell her name was. But then she is like, okay, well, I just saw my friends get killed off in really gruesome, semi-creative, yet overdone ways. So we're on an alien planet that I know nothing about. We're being taken in here by another android who I don't know anything about either. I'm going to go off on my own and just like clean up because I'm a woman and I just need to do that because I need to make a bad decision.
And then...
So but again, it was just setting up an easy kill is all it was doing.
Well, and then later, so like shortly after that, when the captain shows up and sees her decapitated head in the pool of water and her dead body, and he sees David talking to the large alien. He then shoots and kills the aliens, and then David goes and shows him a dungeon that has a bunch of eggs in it, and then he looks into the egg as one. It's a traditional facehugger that implants an alien in him that grows to full size in record time compared to the original films.
I thought that sequence was cool. I like David kind of. I wish I would have seen more of David with a relationship with him. Like even if he was able to, that would have been cool.
Actually a cool moment.
That was cool, and then also a cool way to do the facehugger scene again. It's not just somebody stumbling upon it. David being the person that is leading to it because he's like the true villain. Like it's not even the xenomorphs anymore. They are just something, but they are because of him. You know what I mean? Because of him a lot of times. So I thought that was really cool, him leading them there, because that did build up some suspense. Granted, I didn't care about that character that much. I knew probably where it was going, but at the same time, at least it was leading you somewhere, and it was something I could be a little bit invested in.
Yeah, that was disappointing in itself, because like you said, that was actually interesting, because with every other human being, I'm just going to say white alien, because you had a white alien, a black alien, and the facehugger, and the pollen. So the white alien, with every other human was just like, except for the girl, that it was being creepy and watching for a second while she washed her wound in open water. Or her open wound in water. Like, other than that, like where the alien took a second to be like, I'm being a creeper and breathing over your shoulder just long enough for you to turn around, even though everyone else was an instant boom kill. But I guess that what I'm getting at, though, is could the alien smell that this is an android or a machine versus a human? Maybe that's why the alien did not immediately attack him, because everything else, the alien was like, kill, 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 die, die, creeper moment, now kill. Oh, I'm sorry.
I almost feel like he's like done a Chris Pratt like training thing in Jurassic World. Like, that's what I would like to see.
Well,
so that was interesting to where, because I actually was like, oh, something different.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, oh, something different about this movie. Cool. But then it was like the guy with the jaw ripped off, and it's like, oh, nope, we're done. Not going back to this.
Like, I would have loved it if they were like trying to fight David and he was like sending them after them. You know what I mean? Like
that would have made. But to that point, though, that would have been some kind of sense in terms of like, how did the alien not immediately attack him?
Well, then there's also like so there's the incredibly homoerotic scene where David and Walter, where David teaches Walter to play a flute, and
he said, "I'll do the fingering."
Yeah, and like. Everybody in the audience, I think, was like,
Were they? Which, I mean, like, it's very, I don't really, I want to watch that again, because I really don't know.
You want to watch the uncut version with all the...
I don't know, is it, granted, he was trying to seduce Walter, to get him on his side, basically, I felt like.
Well, I thought too, that, like, so I thought that the direction they were going was in the original, in Prometheus, you saw that the way they controlled the ship was through using like a flute type device.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that he was maybe training Walter to do some type of command that would do whatever it was he wanted later, but that wasn't the direction it was going. He was just trying to feel him out.
I think it was interesting because it revealed kind of the differences between David and what makes him a unique android, because he was able to create. Walter isn't. Like, there was a lot of those things, like why David's doing the things he's doing because he has the ability, why Walter is not, and what makes him different. Also, too, I think one of the screenwriters is gay to this film as well. So I want to hear more about that sequence, and kind of like I kind of got a little bit about it, but I feel like there may be even more there. It looked impressive. It was all one. They did a long shot, and the faces looked good. It was hidden in the dark. It wasn't like any Star Wars, whatever that most recent one was. Weird looking CGI faces.
Rogue One.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this is the moment, and there are some cool moments. But again, this is the moment where you feel like you're getting a lot of exposition and long scenes like that.
But it's not really going
And
anywhere.
yeah, and they're just kind of hanging out in that space.
Yeah, they're just
Well,
hanging
and
out.
and some people are getting killed,
And
but
it's one of those
Yeah.
things where they spend all the time on that segment, and then later, so shortly thereafter, you have David attacks Daniels, and then Walter steps in on her half. So then Walter and David fight, and that fight made that entire prior sequence kind of pointless for him to have tried to do all this information when Walter still sided with the humans.
So on that note, like in that scene, while David.
by the way,
pins-
Walter, his arm is gone at this point.
Or yeah, he lets his hand to those.
Oh,
that
yeah.
alien.
The
So this-
attack in the field.
So at this point, David has found Daniels looking at illustrations that. Did David draw those? It wasn't really implied. She's looking at shit. I'm like, none of these illustrations or drawings you're looking at are helping me understand anything any
Oh, and you
better.
see the dead body of Elizabeth Shaw. Where
Yeah,
he
so
had-
that was something. But like when Daniels looks at the pictures and then David comes in and like throws her against this stone wall, she doesn't have any broken bones miraculously. And
That
I'm
looked
like,
kind of cool.
yeah, but it's not. If this was Guardians of the Galaxy, I would be okay with it. But this movie was serious, and what's her face on the ship, Danny McBride's wife, Tennessee's wife, like she falls down the stairs the wrong way, and you hear like a crunch, like her ankle breaks.
and she's like limping and stuff.
So, which is real. So you're living in, and this all goes back to like suspension of disbelief in terms of you can have a universe in which aliens exist, but if gravity is still the same, if human bones still break the same, then you need to adhere to that rule throughout the entire film.
Hey.
So,
Hey, what about this? Daniels is an android.
oh my God.
She doesn't know
Oh my
it.
God.
Again,
Like
Blade
she would,
Runner.
She would have to be because
She might be. You don't know.
But she would
James
have
Franco is
yeah,
too.
but she would have to be because he takes her and literally throws her against the stone wall. She then falls down the stone floor and she's able to like. I mean, she's obviously like, oh, like what you would be. But I'm like, no, you would have at least a couple of cracked ribs, probably a dislocated shoulder. I'm like, no, like you would be legit in pain and broken in at least a couple of places. Then he pins her on the table, and I'm like. And so what I was like, are you implying that you want to rape her now? Because he then like looks at her and says, I can see why Walter favors you or whatever. And then he like kisses her. And then she's like, what are you going to do? And he says, what I did to Elizabeth Shaw. And I'm like,
No, I think he used Elizabeth Shaw to engineer the xenomorph. So I
So-
think he's gonna basically use her to.
so
kind
like
of-
autopsy her while she's alive kind of
I don't
a
know
deal.
if he likes
Or-
blending DNA and
But
using
like,
her. I
but
don't know.
if he's also biologically sound enough to where he can grow out hair, does that mean he can get an erection? Why did he kiss her? He had feelings for her, which is what he
Well,
told
he kissed
Walter
he kissed
earlier.
Walter too.
But what I'm saying though is he supposedly like loved Elizabeth Shaw.
I think he was lying.
So
that was all a lie.
Regardless, though, like he kisses her,
Well, too,
and
though-
but I mean, and rape is a power
It's
play
dominance.
anyway.
Yeah, it's dominance.
Yeah, so at that point, I'm like, are
Well,
you
in-
going to rape
well, in
her? I
the,
assume he has a working penis.
In that short film that I was the one that watched, like it did show like when Shaw was fixing David, like he did seem to have general affection for
Yeah.
her, treating him well.
But he's still not an actual human to like be able to.
Don't they ask him if he has a dick in
sympathize?
Prometheus, and he says no?
I don't remember.
I mean,
I don't
this
remember
isn't
either.
really.
But-
that important,
it's
but yeah.
But that was,
was-
but as a woman
Yeah.
watching this, he's got her pinned down. He's on top of her. He kisses her and then says, "I'm gonna do to you to Shaw." Okay, my mind goes to, oh, he's gonna rape
Oh
her
yeah, see, I
now?
thought, oh, he's gonna put an eight. He's gonna
Yeah,
use.
but
he's
as
gonna
a
keep her
woman,
around like he
like-
kept
For
Shaw around too.
experimentation.
Yeah, like I mean,
Yeah.
I think he's going to experiment too. I think he's going to torture her to death too. But I also think that like rape is going to be, or some kind of weird sexual stuff is going to be in the picture too,
So-
as much as the android can figure out. Also, so as a side note though, I'm sorry, you're telling me this android dude was able to like create an alien being or whatever species with no genetics lab? Like, you don't have any kind
in
of
10 years.
Yeah, in 10 years, you created this with no genetics lab, no like chemistry kits. You know, like you didn't have any. I mean, maybe he pulled some shit. No, he did have a microscope. He pulled some shit from the ship.
too, like the whole civilization there. They made that weapon. They made like the first version of it. I think he
Yeah.
just kind of evolved them.
I guess.
So I don't know either.
But I was just like, dude, where's your genetics lab? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Well,
just,
because like the engineers initially made the black goo that he then figured
Yeah.
out how to create.
So I
into
figure they have
beings.
some, but yeah,
So-
granted.
But it's a big suspension of disbelief there,
Well,
and
it's
she
a
should have had broken bones.
Basically, the thing is, David in 10 years created the entire xenomorph race, essentially.
Right.
So then you have like the fight between David and Walter, and then you have like the actual xenomorph attacking, and Tennessee flies like the construction dropship thingy down.
Because he's so selfish that one person's life, his wife, who doesn't know is dead yet, is more important than literally over 2,000 souls on this ship. Again, why this Joe Schmo, who happens to be married to so-and-so, should not have been in control of a mission like this.
And then you have a battle, and they manage to kill the alien.
I think that battle was cool. Her hanging off the side and all that.
At the same
I thought that
time-
was a
like
cool,
Guardians of the Galaxy.
I thought that was a cool sequence. I like that.
It would have, but like in real life, though, it would have almost immediately or almost 100% resulted in her death when it got close to the ground and was dragging and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they tried to amp up the action and stuff like that.
Yeah, but again, though, are watching Guardians of the Galaxy, some Marvel film to where she has superpowers and she can hang by literally her belt loop, which, by the way, would break her back. If you were to fall off something and the gravity's the same as the Earth, then it's
Batman.
Not if she's an android.
But that's the only answer.
Yeah.
That's the only
Hey, that's all they got to
answer.
do. And then you say, well.
So then you have,
Yeah.
I knew the movie's 2 hours or like 2 hours and 2 minutes or whatever the runtime was. So you see this happen and they get back on the ship and it's like, well, the movie's still got 30 minutes. That's definitely not Walter. That's David.
Yeah.
every alien, and every alien has your 2 endings. And this kind of had 3 endings.
So then
I'm glad they kind of
get back
at
on the
least-
ship, and then the one of the guys they managed to rescue when they're on the planet is infected. So then he has a chest burster, and there's a xenomorph on the ship. Once again, that becomes fully grown like immediately,
Yeah.
and it's running around the ship. And then you have them trying to kill it, and they manage to get it off the ship via like ejecting some construction equipment from like the cargo bay of the ship. And then you think all of it's good. And when they're going into the cryo sleep, like Tennessee's already in cryo sleep and Daniels is going into cryo sleep, who are the only 2 survivors that are human. And then she realizes that it's not Walter, but actually David. And then he vomits up some like face hugger embryo things that he puts in storage.
And
to
somebody
use.
pointed out too that it's an alien couple also on the ship because there's 2 of them.
But they don't need to have sex to reproduce because they're parasites. So that didn't make any sense either.
Well, I think he brought 2 just to have more than one.
Yeah, so they could have friends. They wouldn't be alone. They need companionship.
Or
But like,
maybe-
so you did skip over a couple of things that
Well,
were
there's
ridiculous.
The shower sex scene was
ridiculous.
a moment that was like probably conceived as like a cool moment in a storyboard, and then like, well, because at that point in the movie, because it was in the trailer, so I remember that I knew that was going to happen. I was like, at the point in the movie we were at, like once all the shit had hit the fan, it's like, why would these people possibly go off by themselves and have sex in the shower after 13 or 11 or 12 or how many of their friends just died?
So I can argue that because they're a couple,
Yeah.
they're already a established couple. I could argue that, okay, well, yes, if me and I think because they were married, if me and my husband were on this journey and the shit went down, and as far as they know, they're safe at this point. So they aren't aware of an alien being on the ship. So yes, at that point, it's like, okay, well, we're safe now. And they just need some alone time. At that point, it's not purely sexual. I did interpret that as, babe, I love you, we're together. Like, let's just be together intimately. Not just like, yeah, fucking sex time. Like, that was not what that was.
They weren't teenagers in a Friday the 13th
yes,
movie.
they were not like, we just met at a camp and we're going to have sex. Like, it wasn't like that at all. But so that being said, though, at number 1, talk about unoriginal slasher tropes of fucking shower scene. Number 2, it just pissed me off because the alien does like the tail going up towards her vagina and it was just like, boop, I guess. And then she was like, what's that? Oh, here's my tits. Oh no, you're dead. Like, I don't know. Again, overused, unoriginal.
I mean, that was the exact dialogue.
That was the exact dialogue. Oh, my tits. Oh, you're dead. Like, but that's exactly essentially what happened. And no, I know I'm a woman, so of course she's going to have trouble with nudity because she's blah, blah, blah. But no, that's not it. Like, I was bitching about this scene to a friend at a party last night, and he loved the movie. He also really likes the generic slasher films. I have higher standards for a film like Alien, whatever the fuck. So my whole thing is, you can do better than that. It's not necessary.
Well, it wasn't
was just
necessarily-
essentially just like, and like, there's honestly a weird fascination that people have with like aliens and sex with humans anyway.
Well,
so,
like the
I don't
H.R.
know.
Giger designs for the aliens,
They're very
were
phallic.
very
Yeah.
sexual. But like, I mean, to me, it just wasn't a well constructed sequence. If you have them in the
No.
shower and then they become aware that there's like an alien creature on board, and then you have that element of they're stuck in this confined space, and there's the added element of being nude and having no weapons.
Right.
It didn't play into that. It was just kind of a quick bang bang type
But
thing.
also, like, the alien wouldn't have done that. The alien wouldn't have been like, yeah, vagina. Oh, now I'm going to get him. That would not have happened. The aliens would have gone at them.
Because it like
Like, if they,
previously,
so honestly, my biggest beef with that moment wasn't the nudity, because it wasn't like gratuitous or anything. It wasn't even the shower scene, because to me that made sense in how they went about it. They were just trying to have an intimate moment to love on each other in this time of emotional distress. So I was fine with that. It was the boop, and then now I'm gonna get you. Like, no, the
the alien doesn't play.
Yeah, the
for most
alien doesn't
part.
play. The alien, I don't think, is aware of like sexy ass and I like vaginas. Like, also, it's probably a female alien, number one. Like,
Theoretically, it's the first like xenomorph of that nature that's existed because
So-
it's been fed through a human.
that was just silly and stupid. And if some dude got off to that and likes it, fine. Do you? But like, it just was not good. And then you're also, so the whole thing, the giveaway with Daniels, and I just felt so bad for her, because I was like, you're doing so well. You're such a good actress. You're doing what you can. Because earlier she had a touching conversation with Walter when James Franco, her husband, died. And she was like, we were going to build a cabin on a lake when we got there. And then he was like, I'll help you build a cabin. I was like, oh, he's sweet. But then like that moment where she got into her chamber at the very end, and she's like, you're still going to help me build that cabin, right? And then David just looked at her because he didn't know what she was talking about. And at that point, it's safe to drop the facade. And then she was like, David, no. I don't know. It just was.
That was a cool reveal, though. That was a cool way.
Yeah.
That was a good setup,
I was
because it had
okay
some
with the
emotional
reveal.
backing
It
to
was
her
a-
husband.
Right.
You know, and then Walter.
It was a Kaiser Sose moment.
Like
that,
it, yeah.
It was,
basically,
I was fine with the moment. So you
so-
skipped over it.
Yeah,
It was actually.
yes.
It was one of the few good moments.
But the thing that the movie ultimately did, it's kind of wrapping up the spoilers, is that it did to me what Alien 3 did to Aliens. So Aliens has characters that survive and all this stuff, and then Alien 3 is like, nope, we're wiping all that away. So this movie, you have these characters you went through all this struggle with, and then you kind of got on their side, and then you rooted for them, and then at the end, David comes in and he's like, there are going to be some alien incubators here at some point. I mean, you don't know exactly what's going to happen to them, but the way these franchises have always operated for the most part is they kill off all the characters that weren't Sigourney Weaver between them. And
Now they're just not killing off David.
yeah,
You know?
so and he's an android. So you have like all this movie, and then at the end, just like it's like a lot of horror movies, kind of dystopian. Like, oh well, everybody died.
Yeah, no,
and this one they're still alive, so theoretically stuff could happen. But it's just like it just gave me memories of having watched Alien 3 recently, where Alien 3 is like, oh, those characters you thought were cool, and you want to see what happened with them. Nope.
Well, and the ending itself was kind of silly because, like, so Daniels, unless he kills Daniels, she not only knows everything that happened on that planet,
Yeah.
but she also, like, knows that's David.
Yeah.
So the minute she wakes back up, she's going to be like, everybody, that's David. And they're going to believe her.
Yeah,
so,
but I think he's going to be there when she wakes up.
but he
Like,
even,
I think he's going to I think he's keeping her incubated to use her.
but like in the log though, he said like everyone perished in an accident except for Daniels in Tennessee. And I'm like, are you going to wipe their memory? What's your game plan, dude? Like,
we'll have to see if the act. So if
maybe he was going to use maybe he's going to use the face hugger embryos for them.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
He was gonna
That's
use
the
them.
only plan.
That's why he was keeping them alive.
Or two,
The two of them.
If he has like the remaining majority of the 2,000 colonists when he gets to that planet, eventually he'll do something that creates the alien queen. I would assume that, like you see
Right.
later, because like in Aliens, the queen is what lays the eggs, and then in this movie, he had the eggs created. However, so they may have like written the queen alien out of continuity at this point, but because it was a cool moment from a movie, but. So, like, it ends at a point where it just sets it up for another movie that gets you yet closer to Alien.
But not
my thing
really.
too, at least normally you have Sigourney Weaver surviving and everything's cool, you know. And in Prometheus, you had Shaw surviving, and I kind of expected that again. I like that at least this did something different when you have two characters living,
Right.
but they're also not in a great position.
Right.
And I like that the ending kind of was at least somewhat unexpected, even though you kind of guessed that was David. That was also really weird. Like he changed outfits real fast. He cut off his arm real quick.
Right.
Like all that was kind of dumb too. Like how fast that
is
happened.
the Walter android completely destroyed, or will
Yeah.
it come back at some point?
Yeah.
So
Walter saves the day.
Another thing too, like, I mean, maybe it has to do with the spores, but this planet, they were talking about how, you know, they dropped those things and they all took over the engineers,
and it
which
killed all the engineers and all the animals.
which I thought was cool. I would have liked to seen almost some more of that because I think the poster for this movie is amazing. It almost looks like that, like, I don't know what piece of art it is. It's like from the Renaissance, like
Oh,
where
yes.
angels and demons are fighting.
It's
you know?
like- yeah,
and they're grabbing on each other. That's what
yeah.
that looks like, and that's what that's
Right.
about. Him, you know, basically.
The engineers and the xenomorphs.
So I think that was a really cool sequence, but can life sustain like without an ecosystem? Like, are the spores doing all the stuff
So-
that birds did and everything else?
So
Like, that's what I was thinking. of.
To that point, I was talking to William with my super base freshman level biology education. Even I understand that you have to have an ecosystem where it's Lion King-esque circle of life.
Mm-hmm.
You have plants, you have animals that feed in the plants, you have carnivores that feed on those animals, and then you have, when those animals die, they decompose and become a part of the soil. And then you have things like vultures and bacteria that help take care, and you have an ecosystem. I cannot fathom a planet, especially one anywhere close to ours, to where an ecosystem would support an alien like that, because that being
Well, it's an
has
apex
acid blood.
predator.
It's an apex predator, but also doesn't require. If it literally is so indestructible, it has acid blood, it would only exist in a place like Saturn. Because I was telling him how evolution works is things over time evolve to match their surroundings and adapt. That's how that works. Nothing evolves beyond the environment because it doesn't
I want
need
to know how the environment survives. That's what I'm talking about. Trees and
Well,
all that.
yeah,
like, how are
but-
those surviving?
Well, it
without-
That's what I'm
It had
saying.
only
It
been
eventually
10 years.
But it eventually would all die because the trees may do fine for forever and ever, but the aliens, when they eventually starve or just eat each other, and then there's gonna be like one left, and then it'll eventually starve to death and die. Unless like David keeps on making more and more, he'll eventually die because I'm sure he requires some kind of energy
But if
source.
they're the perfect
being a
being,
mechanic.
if they're the perfect being, which aliens or xenomorphs supposed to be, do they need any food or
I mean,
anything?
I always thought of the
they-
Well, they eat though,
they eat, or they
know?
kill people, but
but you're assuming they're eating them. Otherwise,
that white
why would
thing
they?
it was eating her.
Yeah,
but,
it was
other than
eating.
that, they never.
like
But
I
so
always,
like I don't know, that's my thing though, in terms of evolution that couldn't exist, but in terms of like an ecosystem keeping up with it, no, it could not.
I always thought the xenomorphs were just like a biological weapon, like that like a species like the space jockeys or engineers, whatever, created this biological weapon that ended up being their downfall because they created a weapon that was too perfect and was too adaptable, and then it like destroyed them. And then that was interesting. What they've done now is a little bit different than that. I mean, we'll have to see if the engineers come back into this at all, because there is an engineer ship in Alien that has a space jockey engineer in it with the eggs. So how that happens at some point in the future, we don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm cool. I'm interested to see the link between those, and then, like I said, what happens with David and all these colonists.
Yeah.
Like I'm because I like David. I think he's an interesting character that came out of this. I don't think everything was handled in the best way in this film, really. Like I said, it's a lot of exposition dumps and stuff, but I'm hoping they can kind of bounce back a little bit more. And I don't think this was like a total disaster, but I also, again, and I saw that trailer, I was like, okay, I'm not super excited for it. Like, obviously, I saw it opening night. Like, I was excited on a certain level,
Right.
but I wasn't expecting to be blown away. I thought, I don't know if this one's going to hit for me, just based on what I saw in the trailer. And it kind of ended up there. It just disappointed me in different ways.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just didn't expect to be disappointed. I will say, to be honest with you, like the acting was really good. The CGI, I thought it looked beautiful. What you saw, the aliens were cool for the most part.
I thought it almost like, they used somebody in a suit for those early ones. Moments, it still looked like somebody in a suit, but moving differently. That's what thought
Yeah.
was cool about it. It still had like some sort of weird,
Yeah.
like
Well,
offsetting
visually, it
human
was still
feel
good.
to
It
it.
looked better than the alien from Alien 3 that was CGI.
But all that being said, like I could have watched this. I would believe this was a sci-fi original movie. I would believe that because aside from the acting and aside from the visual CGI incident cinematics, I'm like, yep. I don't know.
It's definitely
it's like a good sci-fi original movie.
It's a summer blockbuster A-list B movie, and I think that it lost sight of what made the original ones work.
Yes.
As B movies,
That's
and
exactly
went in a
it.
bunch of different directions,
Yeah.
with none of them really having enough focus to really achieve the goal. So that was what my opinion of it was. But I think we've discussed enough Alien Covenant spoilers at this point. We've covered the entire movie pretty much.
And
so
Derek will be talking about it a little bit now.
Yeah.
I was
Derek
just
will follow up.
disappointed. I was
Yep.
I wasn't expecting it to be like an Academy Award-winning film.
I thought I would like it
But
a lot more.
I didn't think I would be disappointed is what I'm coming from. I thought it'd be like Prometheus.
See, I didn't. When I saw the
Like,
trailer, I was like, oh, they're going back to the old well. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not going to be I'm not going to enjoy this as much
But,
as Prometheus.
But yeah, so I think that'll wrap up our discussion of Alien Covenant. So that will bring this episode of the House by Video Store podcast to a close. Thanks for listening.